Welcome to the GED Tool Box. Today, let's talk about sentences. We'll find answers to the real questions you have about complete and incomplete sentences. Let's get started. To begin with, let's take a look at incomplete sentences. Let's start with this. 2 miles. There's just not enough information here. We don't know who is doing what and why they're doing something for 2 miles. 2 miles every day. A little more information, but I still don't get it. 2 miles every day where? Why? 2 miles every day, rain or shine. I'm just not catching on to this. There's not enough information. I don't care about the weather. Just tell me who's doing what. All of these things here are incomplete sentences. They have something missing. Let's take a look at some complete sentences and see what we can make of that. I run. This is a very simple sentence, very short, but it's got a subject, the word I, and it's got a verb, run. We know what's happening and we know who's doing the action. I run 2 miles. Here's the same sentence with a little more information. There is no confusion, but there is a lot of clarity here. I run 2 miles every day, rain or shine. Same sentence, more information. It's all very clear. Those complete sentences that we just looked at all have something very important in common. They all have a subject and a verb. A verb, by definition, is a word that expresses action or a state of being. An action verb would be something like jump or scream or fly or run. You can almost take a picture of that. A verb that is a state of being would look like something like appear, seem, feel, or be. A subject, by definition, is a word that tells who or what does the action. I'm sure you've heard all of this before. Sometimes a sentence will have a hidden subject. It's a subject that is simply not clearly stated. Maybe it's understood. Let's see what we're talking about here. Run. Eat your spinach. Stop. Come here. All of these are perfectly good sentences. But what's the subject, you say? The subject is an understood you. All of these sentences are directed at a specific individual, and so we have an understood you. While we're talking about subjects and verbs, let's take a quick peek at the difference between clauses and phrases. A clause has a subject and a verb, but it's not a sentence. A phrase only has one of those things, but not both. Here's a clause to take a look at. Until it's ready. There's a subject and a verb tied up in a neat little package called a contraction. It is the subject, is the verb, but this is not a complete sentence, is it? I can't take the cake out of the oven until it's ready. That's a complete sentence. We just need more information. Here's a phrase. His beautiful red car. Now that might conjure up all kinds of pictures in your mind, but it's not a complete sentence. There's no verb there. His beautiful red car was a hit at the car show. Now we've got a verb. Now we've got complete sentences. Okay, we've talked about complete and incomplete sentences. subjects and verbs, clauses and phrases. Let's put this all together, shall we, and see if we can build a sentence. Here's a phrase, my cat. Remember, phrases don't have a subject and a verb, only one or the other. And this is a nice subject. Here's a dependent clause. I can expect to see some sort of verb in there. Whom I call Franklin has a subject and a verb, but it's not a complete sentence on its own. Here's another group of words. A phrase. Jumps up, lands in my lap, and begins purring. Those are nice words, but all by themselves they are not a sentence. But you put them all together, and we discover my cat, whom I call Franklin, jumps up, lands in my lap, and begins purring. I understand what's going on. This is a good complete sentence. Let's look at some words that might at the outset look like incomplete sentences or fragments, but let's see what a comma can do for them. Here's a fragment. Soon after Lola fell asleep. Might be a nice beginning to a story, or maybe the ending to a story. Well, let's see if we can change it up, and voila. Soon after Lola fell asleep. That little comma, placed very appropriately, changes everything. Now we've got a better picture of Lola falling asleep. Obviously, there's some more sentences before and after this, but we get an idea that she sat down in her favorite chair, perhaps, opened a book, and soon after Lola fell asleep. Possibly. Let's take a look at another. Before I went shopping. I don't have a clue what happened. I just don't know. But let's see if a comma might make the difference. Before I went shopping. So we know that we went shopping before something else happened, right? This makes it a complete sentence. Before I went shopping without the punctuation is just simply not clear. Is it ever okay to use fragments in your writing, even though we've been talking about complete sentences? Well, you've all probably noticed when you read a novel, or sometimes even in the newspaper or magazines, in an article, you may see some fragment sentences thrown in there. Sometimes a fragment can work in writing. Let's look at some examples of when. For emphasis, look at these sentences. It snowed all night and most of the morning. After it stopped, we went outside to measure what had fallen. It was a record amount. 3 feet. Now, 3 feet is not a complete sentence by any stretch of the imagination, but it works here for emphasis. We know that it snowed a lot, and we're making a point to our reader to tell them how much. A lot of times in informal dialogue, you'll have fragmented sentences or incomplete sentences. And let's face it, you and I don't really talk in complete sentences when we're talking with friends or family. Rico smiled and asked, "More soup?" "Of course," I answered. More soup and of course are not complete sentences, but in dialogue, it's all right. With some exclamations and interjections. "Oh no, my ring just fell down the drain." Oh no is not a complete sentence, but it is a great exclamation, especially for a situation like this. In formal writing, like essays or research papers or extended responses, you need to try to communicate to your reader in complete sentences. That's the best way to get your point across and not be misunderstood. So the moral to the story is, for clear communication, use complete sentences with few exceptions. Thank you so much for stopping by the toolbox. I hope you found some of this helpful today. Come back again soon.